The story of a man traveling home to say that he is going to die is a pedestrian tale of everyday life that can happen anywhere to anyone. Now, what makes it, outstanding somehow is, of course, the performances of the actors, but that very vernacular.
Let me start by asking you, congratulating you first on what I think is an incredibly potent and powerful film. And can I start by asking you how you first came to the material?
Yes. So Anne Dorval, who starred in Mommy, who was the mommy in Mommy, my previous film, once mentioned this film to me, and she brought it up, and she's not this film, sorry, the play, to me, and she said, "This is one of the most brilliant materials I've ever read in my life, and I could ever perform," because she was part of the original cast in Montreal when it was brought to Montreal in 2001. She was Marion's character, actually. She told me, "This is something you absolutely have to read, that you are going to be, that seems really cut out for you, or you seem cut out for that material. You have to read it. It's literally tailored for, on you." And I was like, okay, well, and she gave me her script with her annotations and her everything in the margin, all the notes she had taken from actually, making the play, playing the part on stage. And so I start page 1, page 2, page 3, and this is a story that I've told many times now, but it's true. This is how it happened. I just didn't understand the vernacular of the playwright, and the characters were, I don't know. I didn't find a way to their heart. I didn't really understand the emotional stakes of it just didn't work for me. And that was early. I mean, it was in 2010, 2011, and I just put it aside, and Anne and I never really talked about it again. And then years later, I revisited the play, coming back from Cannes after Mommy, and I had met with Marion there. I had bumped into Leah, whom I know for, whom I've known for years, Gaspard as well. And on the plane, I was trying to think, how could I bring these people together? Because I was suddenly inspired to work with them, but I needed a vessel, I needed something to obviously bring them together. And I thought of the play, but I was like, okay, but it's not something that I had connected with. I have to revisit the material and see if there's something for me in there that I understand. And I came home, and when I read it, with their faces in mind, I suddenly, all the things that I couldn't understand, that I couldn't fathom, that I couldn't relate to, were all so relatable and understandable. It was just the next film. Page 6, I knew it was going to be the next film. It's funny how just 5 years had passed, but it was enough for me to feel very moved by things that had previously left me rather indifferent.
Can I ask you about then that process of assembling the whole cast, because it is an extraordinary cast, and you did mention in your introduction the shooting in a 6-day period. Did you work with them in a rehearsal context beforehand, or was it dive right in?
It was sorry. It was dive right in, actually. It's and more than that. It's head first. I mean, I was in jury in Cannes in 2015, and I was coming back on May 25th or something, and we started shooting on May 26th in the morning at 5 a.m. Literally got off the plane, dyed their hair, which is always the first thing I love doing, clearly, and off we went. So it was athletic. But I did have 1 or 2 rehearsals, one with Marion, one with Leah. I went to Leah's home, her previous home. Actually, she's irrelevant. and we had a good conversation about the play and her character and acting in general. It was lovely. Marion came to my room when I was in Paris before Cannes, I think, when we were doing fittings. She came to my hotel room and we talked about the character for an hour or two, and then she left. I never really had a chance to talk to Gaspard about it except on text. This is the new approach, I guess, in this time and age. But it's a blessing also not to make things too concrete and calculated and definitive already. It was a pleasure to improvise on the spur, and there certainly were things that surprised us, because when you're a collectivity of actors like that, of 5 people, the dynamic is there is this collective approach where everybody chimes in, and it's very rich. Yeah, and I think we had one table read. Wow. That's all. Yeah. And then we started to shoot, but the script was, the Lagasse's writing was just, to me, was really on the spot. It was just so precise that all that was left to do is shoot these people and say the lines, and obviously it's not all we did. But it was quite, organic. I hate that word.
But
I mean, I don't hate the concept, but I hate that word for an approach. It's so organic. It's so organic.
One of the things that I found to be an incredibly powerful choice for the film was the proximity and the way that the camera is so close to the actors. And of course, you've worked with the cinematographer before on Tom at the Farm and Mummy in a very different kind of frame. What sort of challenges or not did that present?
I mean, it wasn't a challenge, it was a choice to shoot characters and with such proximity. It appeared to me and us that any wide shots would sort of remind us of the theatrical nature of the material, which isn't negative at all for me, because I did want to keep that theater atmosphere, that theater DNA. I wasn't ashamed of it. And most of the time when we adapt plays, we're like, we can't feel the theater, and we are like, oh, it was good, I didn't feel the theater. But that was never a concern for me. I love theater, and I think it can feed cinematic endeavors in a very healthy way and profound way. We shouldn't be afraid of its codes and its standards. And we weren't in this film, but there was one thing that the dialogue is so low. Everyone is so loquacious. It's so verbose. It's such a verbose dialogue, and that really belonged to the play. And I didn't want to betray Lagasse's spirit and his legacy by just saying, "Oh, that's not cinematic. Let's get rid of this and let's just make them speak normally." To me, what was beautiful about his vernacular is that there are so many words. So many repetitions and so many, people correcting their own grammar. Of course, we don't speak like that in real life, but there's something very close to how we think in real life, how nervous we are when we're around people who are, estranged brothers or members of our families, and we just, we are nervous, we are insecure, we are uncomfortable in our own skin, and there's this flow of words that's just, and people drawn under that, and to me, I didn't want to lose that. But at the same time, what's beautiful about Lagasse's vernacular is that it's ironic in a way where it says, I know I'm using a lot of words. I know I'm being stylist. This style is very flamboyant and structural and maybe too sophisticated. But in the end, everyone is using all these detours and all these words to finally avoid saying the essential. And there's an irony in there, which is basically a playwright saying everything that I'm doing, all of my work doesn't really matter. because what matters is what remains unsaid. And so in order to get closer to that and mirror that irony, the only thing that we could do was to get closer, first to avoid, wide shots were like filming theater. It was, when you're seeing theater on TV, and it's always a tad odd. And so getting closer to the characters, cracking so much, getting closer to the characters was a way to get closer to their eyes and their mouths, get closer to the body language. Since the language is so omnipresent and so overwhelming in the film, it was a way to say that doesn't really matter, forget about the words, and focus on the body.
And can I ask about how the actors...
Okay. All right, then.
Can I ask about how the actors then worked with this kind of extraordinary language, and did you, in that process, free up with their interpretation, or did you stick very solidly to screenplay?
I was a bit of a pain because I thought we ought to just honor the legacy of this great playwright. And what was, I don't say funny because it wasn't funny, but it was certainly inspiring and challenging and daunting, is that we were all there for the same reason. We were there to honor the mind of an artist. And the story of the man traveling home to say that he's going to die is a pedestrian tale of everyday life that can happen anywhere to anyone. Now, what makes it, outstanding somehow is, of course, the performances of the actors, but that very vernacular. And the way that people express all of their feelings and all of their, are vocal about how they feel and correct themselves. And I think every actor was very aware of how important it was to preserve that, to safeguard that quality of writing from Jean-Luc Lagarce. And of course, we took some liberties, and some of his dialogue was incompatible with some of the scenes. Some scenes that were invented from scratch needed to ape that style, so I needed to sort of imitate his style when I tried to imitate his style when I was writing that new dialogue. But we all did it we were all on the same page on how important it was to protect that singularity. We were aware that this is what was making this film, this would make this film singular, and we're hoping it would make it singular. I didn't have too many problems making that clear.
Somehow that's not surprising to me at all. Can you also, I guess, talk about this, I think, very palpable feeling throughout the film of someone coming home to a world that they're now outside of and moving back inside of it and finding it very altered, very different, and indeed very silencing to what it is they've come to say. That feeling of the outsider coming home.
Well, you did say finding it in a quite different place than where it was when he left that space, that environment. It could also be finding everyone in the exact same place than he left them when he left, which is what is heartbreaking, I guess, is you make choices and you leave things behind and then you come back. I don't know about that. I don't know about that feeling. I don't have that feeling. I don't have that family. I love my family. I love my mother's family, my father's family. We play games. We play cards. We're happy. Just so you know. So this is about what there is in the play and what I can bring of my own personal life in there. Of course, I was at odds with my father or mother at a certain point in my life. Different point of my lives, actually. And I understand what it is. Not in that style, not in that fashion. This is something different for me. But of course, I can relate to what it is to be misunderstood, or not be listened to, not be respected, not be heard, not be considered. To try to say things that you think are important, and people won't let you talk. Not because they're mean or because they don't want to, because they have so many things to say, and they've collected these things for so long, and they've held them back, and now they need to let them all go. So I think that Louis coming back home is an opportunity to show how all his family are actually they're very aggressive, and they're very brutal and loud and brash. They're hard to love. They're violent, abusive verbally, physically at some point. But it was pretty clear to me when I read the play that that was also what was appealing, and to see them, being so nervous, being so insecure, and trying to please him, trying to impress him, was what this film was going to be about. There are many characters. I can relate to all characters in this film, maybe Antoine more than anyone else. And to me, Louis comes home to give answers in order to bring peace and comfort to his family. He comes home and realizes that in fact he's not bringing peace and comfort to anyone. He's bringing peace and comfort to himself. He's making himself feel good about telling his family that he's going to die. And at some point in the film realizes that it's of no use, and that no one in this family will benefit from that revelation, and then accepts what his brother is trying to do, this sort of masquerade that he's staged in order to make him leave.
Can I ask you as well about design, because here design really amplifies, I think, that emotional state, and it maybe recedes in the context of watching the film because the performance elements are so strong, but you're so meticulous when you approach design. So can you tell us a little bit about your approach here?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to have a world in this film, an atmosphere that was very brown and blue. I wanted a film that was cold, with low ceilings, sort of depressing interiors. Again, I didn't want to fall into the miserable atmospheres and the gray-looking walls. I wanted something very deep and very rich, but I wanted it to be very deep-colored and very, place where it's hard to believe people can actually live, because it seems so small and narrow. So that was aesthetically what we were going for. And then in terms of wardrobe, I think it was important for me that you would feel a certain amount of these characters were disguised in order to please Louis, because they wanted to impress him. The mother obviously doesn't wear that much makeup and doesn't dress like that every day of her life. There's a scene where you see her exiting a car under the rain, and you see she's under the rain. She's wearing this huge saran wrap, whatever, plastic bag over her head. She has these glasses and the trench, and you're like, wow, this has nothing to do with how she's, all primed up in the beginning of the film. And so this is probably some sort of apparel that she found fit for, the occasion. And also she is loud and crazy in the beginning and laughing, and then in the shed, she's very clear about what she wants, and she's suddenly much more cold-blooded and focused on the essentials of the day. And so the younger sister too, I wanted her to be sort of all, to pimp her style for her brother and try to act, like someone she's not. Well, she's this sort of tomboy, and suddenly when movie begins, she's trying to walk with those heels, and she says the makeup is irritating, and her face is swollen or whatever, and she's wearing some clothes that she's not well mixed. Her brother mocks her for that, makes fun of her. It was the entire intention that everyone would be sort of wearing a mask and be disguising themselves. Except Antoine, of course, who decided that the biggest white running shoes in the world were appropriate for that reunion. I guess that's about it aesthetically. I knew also that there would be very few much colored scenes apart from the memories, the sort of escapes from reality, where Louis either sinks back into his own past into his past. And the final scene, the final scene taking place in sort of what we guess is the sunset after a storm, was sort of an improv, because we made some tests in prep, and it was a very hard location to light. And what Andre, with the cinematographer, had constructed and built, as in terms of lighting for the set, was, I didn't like it. I didn't like with the skin tones, and it's not something that I wanted. Something more dark, something more threatening, something more mysterious. And he was telling me, well, it's sunny outside, and we have a door right there, and we have the patio right there. So how can they not be fully lit? And then I was like, well, they can be fully lit. Is there no more light? If there is no more light, Jesus, I can't talk anymore. I'm having an aneurysm or something. If there is no more light outside, so that's when the idea of the storm came, and then we knew that would be aesthetically, that would be an opportunity to have Louis, extracted from his chair, and the sun coming out, all within that moment, within 3 or 4 seconds.
Xavier, I think it's an extraordinary film, and I'm so thrilled that we've been able to bring all 6 of your films to both our festivals.
Me too.
Can I ask you the final question? When might we expect you back next?
Oh, well, as soon as possible, right? I mean, I should be asking you the question. It's a matter of if you like the next one, but the next. Oh no. The next one should be, we're expecting to release the next one in the fall. Next fall.
And we're all eagerly awaiting. Will you please join me in thanking
Thank
and
you so
congratulating Xavier Dolan?
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. It's not contagious. It's not contagious. I've just told her.